we have Ryan Zinke, who's a friend of Brandon Webb's, who's a fellow SEAL, a SEAL commander. He's running for Congress in Montana, and I know you've also been in local politics for several years now as well, Ryan.
That's right. I was when I got out of the Navy, 23 years. I went back to Montana, my home state. Ran for Senate and won, and became a state Senate. And politics, I think it was easier being a SEAL than it was a politician. The SEAL community is very straightforward, very problem-solving centric. In politics, there's a right side, there's a left side, and the frustration is the ball is not being moved up the field.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are really frustrated on both the right and the left because we've kind of developed an apolitical voice on SOFREP, and we're getting people from the left and the right saying we're just fed up. Like we don't care what the political leadership, this guy, the politician's background is, just as long as they're going to get shit done for us, and it's just not happening. And it's just getting.
Well, I agree with you. And I played in Oregon. I grew up in Montana, family from both the east and west side of Montana. And in Oregon, it was, very, very competitive, learned a lot, went in the Navy. And, in the Navy, it didn't matter whether the guy beside you was a Democrat, a Libertarian, a Republican. It mattered on whether you could do the job or not.
Yep.
And growing up in Montana, it didn't matter whether your neighbor, when your neighbor's barn was on fire, you didn't care whether it was a Republican or Democrat. You just put it out. It's the right thing to do. And there's a lot of frustration, I think, across the country that nothing's being done. I mean, there's no, in a football analogy, the ball isn't being taken up the field. And this is where the frustration is that I think everyone knows on both sides of the aisle the problems we face. And there are significant problems. Our debt, Obamacare, lack of trust. Nobody trusts the government because, quite frankly, the government hasn't been trustworthy. I mean, when you have the NSA and the IRS targeting different groups, the government lying about Benghazi, these are issues that shakes the foundation of truth, of grace and honor in Washington. And I think Americans want truth. We can't really solve the problems which we have, which are surmountable, but they are solvable unless we start talking about truth and truth. Where's our reference point? To me, our reference point has always been the Constitution. It's been the Judeo-Christian. It's been about truth and solving problems. But when the reference point becomes what you can get away with at the polls or some other type of political maneuver, then we've lost our way. I think a lot of Americans are frustrated.
Well, then, too, Ryan, I mean, you and I both come from the community where you have to lead by example. There's just no other way. And here we are again when, the Congress and the Senate are talking about making these cuts to military retirement benefits, yet and I get it, like, hey, let's all pitch in and tighten our belts and get the budget balance, but how about, you take a pay cut and a retirement cut yourself, as far as these
you're exactly right. I mean, of a $3 trillion budget, somehow the Congress gets together in this great compromise and comes up with a $23 billion cut. That's a rounding error. We're 17, almost $18 trillion in debt. And a rounding error of $23 billion, which is less than sequestration, which is 85, to me, let's call it what it is. It's a joke.
Yeah.
And the only thing you can find to cut is military pensions, which is a promise.
Yeah.
you know, and I'm a hawk. I think if we send our kids out, and I can say our kids because my daughter's a Navy diver, my son-in-law is a senior chief in the Navy SEALs, active duty, and so I can say that when we send our sons and daughters out to war, we want to make sure we give them rules of engagement that are conducive to win decisively. We want to make sure we give them the equipment, the logistics, the support to win. Period. Period. But that doesn't mean the Department of Defense is not capable of being more efficient. It's wasteful. And to me, the answer is you have the combatant commanders. Give the commanders in the field more authority. Just like give the states more authority, because anytime you make the decision up the chain of command, you go further and further away of what's most efficient, what's most accountable, what makes sense. And the federal government, quite frankly, is out of control. And quite frankly, the states, I think can do a better job of determining health care and what's good for Montana versus good for New York.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, my mother owns a small business. She's been in business for almost 20 years, their partner, and she's suffering under Obamacare. She has a 28-year-old office manager who has two kids and she can't figure out how Obamacare is working for her. I mean, I'm just seeing it across the board. I'm scratching my head, and I don't know enough about it other than that everyone I talk to, from my doctor friends to my other friends that had to switch their insurance, to my mother and her employees, like nobody's benefiting, and I just don't see.
Well, yeah, and the facts of the matter is 3 years, billions of dollars spent, 6 people signed up the first day. It was a promissory note that you could keep your insurance, you could keep your doctor. That was a lie. And so now where we're at is you're paying more for a service that is inferior at a higher cost.
Yeah.
And we all know that the medical it's got a lot of problems. But what you put, as a military person, is you put the money in the front line. That means you put the money on making sure the doctors, the nurses in the military, it's the corpsmen, the PAs, you make sure that they can make the decisions that are right and beneficial to the patient. But what we've created is this entire bureaucracy that has developed around billing. And they're going to dictate terms to the providers that are out there that need a little latitude to make a decision. But we're not going to give them that decision. And there's no cost controls. And to me, the military medical profession, I think, was pretty good. I mean, you went in, you may not have seen a doctor. You probably saw corpsmen, which were very good. And then you worked your way up to a PA and then a physician. Unless you were in trauma, you went right to a physician. But that model, looked at costs. Is that your advocate was your commanding officer? You didn't sue your doctor. And from everyone that I've talked to in the medical profession, most of the costs are billing. Most of the costs are procedures that aren't really necessary. They're just kind of the cover your butt type of things. And the physicians need the latitude, and the practitioners need the latitude to make the right decision. And if we do that, it'll be more efficient and it'll be less cost.
Yeah, I have a good friend who's a neurosurgeon in San Diego. He said he's seen a decline in his revenue. He runs a 7-doctor neurosurgeon practice. 30% decline in revenue. He said that before he would have never participated in these lawyers that get the clients and they sue the hospital over their health care. He said he just wouldn't touch these garbage cases, but now it's become a source of revenue from him because Obamacare. He's like, I've had to go do this, and he's got like no choice, and it seems like it's just creating way more problems than solutions.
Well, I talked to the ortho guys and Billings and around Montana and really around the country, and they're scared because of the liability in Obamacare of knowing if you make a mistake, an honest mistake, you could be criminally charged. But the whole system was really set up to be a federal control, and quite frankly, I think the states are more capable of looking at what the interest of Montana is, or if we're in California, what does California need? I think the states are better at setting up health exchanges and delivering affordable health care at a reasonable cost, with reasonable compensation to the physicians and the nurses and the practitioners that deliver it, than quite frankly, what the federal government is capable of doing. So I think we got to abandon Obamacare. Certainly in the military, you look at the rising rates of your co-payments. You're looking at decreasing, health benefits. It's sad, but yet Congress, as a makeup, has far fewer veterans than historically as what has been the makeup of Congress, which is, to me, you look at it and people just don't understand the sacrifice that veterans make, putting their life on the line, and if we make a promise, then we need to keep it.
Yeah, I think too, Ryan. I've seen a lot when I look at a lot of the congressional resumes in the Senate as well. These guys haven't had any life experience. I mean, they haven't had to work their way through college, had a real job. It seems like a lot of them come from a real background of entitlement and just getting more citizens, that involved in government, which is what it was intended for in the first place, not to be a career in Congress or the Senate and spend 30 years camped out in there.
Well, you're exactly right, and this is from a perspective of I'm 3 generations of plumbers. I grew up in Montana. We didn't have much money. I earned my way through a football scholarship, got in the SEALs when SEALs were no one had ever heard of SEALs. And I think my reputation in the SEALs has been looking after the guys, being mission orientated and doing what's right despite the political ramifications either way. But in looking at the running for Congress, and why would Montana matter? Well, in this political environment, every conservative, every seat in the House matters. And having a military guy in that seat also matters. Just like Mr. Smith going to Washington. I was in Washington a couple weeks ago, which kind of lives in a bubble. I don't think they understand how upset people are across the country. I mean, people are really, on both sides of the aisle, are upset that Congress doesn't seem to be doing anything worthwhile. They're just fighting among each other, but they're not making any progress. And the benefits of Congress seem to outweigh, I guess, the progress. But having said that, it's a very expensive proposition to run for Congress. Our campaign is an expensive one. But I think if you go to Washington with American ideals, our values, I think you can make a difference. And it's really about moving the needle. And this is what SEALs do better than anyone, is being a catalyst. We're not the best at, the Marines are great at taking the beach. The Army's great at taking airstrips and bigger things. But the SEALs are really good at creating the elements required for change. And that's what we intend to do in Congress, is to be a catalyst for change, because the direction we're going, clearly is not the right one.
Hey Ryan, I did want to ask one question when I was looking up your background and what you've done, which is awesome, and I do think we need more military guys in Congress, as I know Brandon does. One of the main criticisms immediately when you Google your name is this criticism over your campaign finance. So I just wanted to give you a chance to like clear up what is that whole issue about, and why are people writing articles about that with you?
Well, the left, which when I earlier I had run Special Operations for America, which was a super PAC for Romney. It was comprised of over 10,000 veterans, and it was a transparent super PAC. I mean, you could trace every dime. And before I had committed for Congress, I left the super PAC. And geez, the super PAC is supporting me along with Tom Cotton, along with other groups. This is what the left does. The left likes to throw lies out, disinformation. Fine. So I am squeaky clean, fully transparent. I'm glad that veterans groups are supporting me, but there really is no issue. What we're doing is the Reagan's 11th commandment. We don't criticize either Republican. We're going to stand the issues. If I didn't think Washington was fixable, I wouldn't run. And I believe that Washington can be fixed. And I believe the strength has always been in the people and not the government. And I'm an optimist. I'd rather patch the boat, believe in American exceptionalism, American energy independence, and get the government out of our lives. I think that's the path to American success.
Yeah, well,
and that's an important message.
I'm with you, brother. I know we need more guys like you in Washington.
Well, you look at energy independence. This country from Jimmy Carter, established the Department of Energy. We need to be energy independent. We've heard that, all of my adult life. And now we have the potential and the capacity to be energy independent. And you have these forces that are against us that are not made up of science. And when the President of the United States, in his State of the Union, says that definitively that Sandy is a result of carbon dioxide, there is no scientific evidence for that whatsoever. That's a lie. Just like Benghazi was a lie. So why don't we have the truth and the courage to say what it is? To me, my son-in-law, my daughter are both in the service. I want to become energy independent so I don't have to send my kids overseas and be held hostage to foreign sources of energy. If we have it here, I am absolutely convinced that we can have the energy independence in our country that's responsibly produced, and think of the geopolitical consequences. I mean, we've been in the Persian Gulf together, and I can tell you that you couldn't get a Coke bottle out of the Persian Gulf without the Somali pirates having everything if the United States Navy wasn't there. And we are there primarily because of oil. And if the United States were to become energy independent, which it is entirely possible within 5 years, building infrastructure, aggressively looking at our fracking and our shale play, which is huge and environmentally safe, looking at coal, and coal is as clean at burning as you can possibly get other than CO2. I'm a conservationist, but when there's a volcano in the Philippines that erupts, and in one event produces more CO2 than humans have produced in 200 years, is CO2 really the problem? I don't think so. So let's look at the facts more than political rhetoric.
I think just getting our independence back, period. I mean, our financial independence. We're so in debt, and not to mention the debt we have on the Chinese book, but just get America back. It just seems like we've lost our way with our foreign policy. People just don't trust the government anymore, and a lot of people in the veteran community, they're looking at, why are we still in Afghanistan? What are we doing with our foreign policy? And with the Benghazi thing, Ryan, it just really, to me, Benghazi is important because it really highlights everything that's wrong with our existing foreign policy, and the fact that people make mistakes, bad things happen, but it's what happens after the fact that was important to Benghazi. The fact that people are lying about it, covering it up. Now we have a situation where Charlene Lamb has just been promoted to regional security officer, and she was right next to Patrick Kennedy testifying to Congress. The State Department's own Accountability Review Board pointed to her leadership failures, and we're just going to promote her because she's a loyalist to Clinton and Kennedy.
You're exactly right. And Benghazi is probably the leading example of what's wrong. You have incompetence up front that failed to recognize the threat. You have complete incompetence and lack of any resolve during the crisis, to interdict in any meaningful way. And then you have a cover-up. And the cover-up was a lie. Let's just call it what it is. And to me, it's far worse than Watergate. And no one died in Watergate. As bad as Watergate was, as bad as the lies, the deceit, I think Benghazi is far worse because you have a promulgated lie that didn't fit in the easy script, and people died. And your friends and my friends, died. And I think Benghazi, is a flag, and it's worthy of not forgetting.
Yep.
But I think energy independence, clearly is the path we need to go. I think, energy independence to me is the key because you bring back jobs. If we have stable prices of energy and a low enough cost point, that, U.S. manufacturing can come back. Probably the play is natural gas because it's abundant. It's on the East Coast. It's, mid-continent. It's on the West Coast. Natural gas, our reserves are far bigger than we ever imagined. And, we're not going to compete on labor because, you need a living wage. You can't live a decent life on $2 an hour. But you can manufacture when the price point of natural gas is between 3 and 5, and it will stabilize in there. And we have our energy, household in order where we're not dependent and not held hostage on Middle East sources. I mean, that to me is the key.
Very true. Hey, and it sounds like a solid platform. One last question I was wondering before we let you go is that obviously there's a lot of veterans that are listening to the podcast, and one thing that I always hear from different people who come on who are military is, what can people in Congress do to help them get jobs when they come back here? And also we hear so much about post-traumatic stress and soldier suicide, huge issue. And I think to have someone like you in Congress would be a huge help to those people because you could relate to those issues. As a congressman, what would you be able to do to help those people? That's the last question I was wondering.
Well, go to our website. It's www.ryanzinke.com, RYNZINKE.com. And I can tell you, the veterans issues, I sat down with the VFW guys. I was in Montana last night at the state dinner. And the VFWs, the American Legions, those type of clubs, and we all kind of, know where they are. They need to evolve, too, a little to help the Iraqi veterans, the Afghan veterans that, kind of want more of a coffee shop, computer, type of an area. And these guys that have done, more time overseas in the last 10 years than they have at home, there's a lot of issues they're dealing with them. And what they need is a senior mentor. They need the guys in the Vietnam era, the Korean guys, even the World War II. They need a mentor, kind of as a light in the port that said, look, your problems aren't unique. We've all suffered through this. Don't be a victim. We need to police ourselves. And because it's easy to become a victim, right? But there are problems. We need to address them up front. We need to make sure the resources are there, so the guys that really need help, they absolutely know that there's a safe harbor. And we forget, a lot of times of the veteran plight. It's easy when there are fewer year after year veterans in Congress that are willing to stand up for veterans' rights, veterans' benefits that are earned. They're not given. I've never known a veteran benefit ever that's been given. They're always earned. And we need to make sure that as the greatest nation on the face of this planet, that we uphold to our values and we keep our promises.
Very true. Well, hey, as you said, RyanZinke.com if people want to check you out, and that's Zinke. We appreciate you coming on, and I think a lot of other military are appreciative of having someone run for a U.S. office that is of your background.
No, I believe me. I appreciate you guys' support, and I know you personally, and we've had a long and great friendship. And all I gotta say from a perspective of a blue collar kid that grew up in Montana, we're all in this together. And business and website helps out where you can. Again, we're all in this together. This is a group effort. It's a team effort. And as a former SEAL Team commander, at SEAL Team 6 and not of SEAL Team 6, we all got to look after each other. And the mission, this is a zero-fail mission. Our country's worth saving, and we all got to stick together. United we stand, divided we fall.
I hear that.
Well, well said. Thank you so much, Ryan.
Hey, great to be here, and I appreciate your friendship, and have a blessed day, and God bless America, brother, and all those troops that are in harm's way.
Sounds good, Ryan. We'll have you back soon too. But we got your 6 over here.
Well, I appreciate it, and likewise, brother.
And say hi to Scott for me. Give him a hard time for me. Good dude.
I'm going to go in and have another IPA with Scott. I'm sure he's probably had 2 since our absence.
Right on. All right, brother.
All right.
Take care.
You've been listening to SOFREP Radio. On time, on target. New